Hello everyone, this is Hushman with eBikes USA. Today I am in Denver, Colorado, Wash Park. It's a beautiful fall day and I'm here with Sam, one of our team members, to take a look at the new SONDORS Madmod Scrambler. This is a great looking bike. I love the color. They call it torch, but it's different than the other torch colors that SONDORS has released. This is more of a bright red, no metal flakes, but let's forget about the color. This beauty, it's all about the frame. This is an amazing frame. It's a heavy frame, but it's an amazing looking frame that has great features. It is built to house SONDORS 48 volt 20 amp hour battery that we've seen in the mid drives. Now it's on this bike. The motor on this is the true Fang 750 watt motor that's labeled SONDORS. This motor with the controller that comes with the SONDORS hub motorbikes is capable of producing 1200 watts peak. This is a substantial amount of power for this bike. There are some great features on this that I really like. One, it does feature the same color display that we've seen on MXS, Fat XS, and Fold XS bikes. Very similar setup. The throttle, as usual, I like my throttle on the left-hand side. It gives me a better balance of how the brake levers are positioned. So I've moved it to the left. On the right-hand side, you have the proven 7-speed gear shifter, grip gear shifter with ergonomics grips. This time the hydraulic brakes are made by Zoom. This is really the result of shortage of brakes and components at the factories. They are using whatever they can get in order to build the bikes and ship them to us. They're using Zoom hydraulic brakes. From a performance perspective, they're very similar to what we've seen from Tektro. However, one of the things I've discovered in the store, there are quite a few other manufacturers that are also using Zoom brakes. They do sometimes require a little bit of hydraulic bleed to make sure they're at the optimum performance. So if you do get one of these bikes and you feel your brakes can do better, take it to a local bicycle store, a friendly bicycle store that likes to work on e-bikes, and ask them to bleed the brakes for you. The other great features on this bike, beside the battery, the motor, and this beautiful frame, now they do have a storage box, which we will look at in a second. They have these beautiful headlights that it's a 3-mode headlight. Let me turn it on. So it has the daylight running lights. You can also use it into the additional upper beam or lower beam, and then there is an upper beam. So this thing has 3 different modes. There is also a tail light, and the beauty of this tail light is it acts as a brake light. So that's a great feature. From suspension perspective, SONDORS has introduced their rear suspension on the Madmods. It's different than what we've seen on the Rockstar. And the front shock now is an inverted fork with dual air chambers that you can adjust based on the weight of the riders. I don't really have the specs to know how much travel this is. I'm going to guess it's between 100 to 120, but it's very well possible that this could be 150 millimeter travel. So if you do have that information, please share it in the comments. As I mentioned, brakes are hydraulic. They feature 203 millimeter rotors in front, 180 in the back. It's a great combination. The gears on this is very similar to what we've seen on the Fold and Fat bikes. It's a 48 tooth front crank with 7-speed in the back. Based on, I haven't counted them, but I'm pretty sure this is a 14 by 28 7-speed freewheel that performs very well, especially on a bicycle like this, where after a while you're really not relying on pedaling and you're relying more on the throttle to use it. The derailleur on this is a true Shimano. I have a feeling this is a version of Tourney or maybe a step above it, but it performs very well for what it was meant to do. Let's see some of the other features on the bike that's unique to this bike. as I mentioned, is the storage and the integrated battery. The battery is integrated inside the frame. So let's talk about the frame a little bit. Beautiful frame, very capable, but it's also very heavy. This bike comes in at 114 pounds. Lifting it, moving it is not for the faint of hearts, and I will show you how I transport this bike. Maybe it's not for everybody, but take a good look at how you're planning to transport the bike before making an attempt to lifting it or moving it. If you're going to put it on the back of your car, I recommend going with the best rack you can get for the weight rating. The motorcycle racks are a good way to transport this bike. Many of them are rated up to 400 pounds, so 114 pounds is not a problem. Many of them have a ramp that you can use to roll your bike up on top of the on the rack, and obviously you would need a 2-inch hitch for such racks. So this is the bike overall. How does it ride? It rides very well. It's both easy to pedal and it's great on throttle. Why is it easier to pedal? This is one of the killer features on this bike. These wheels are 24-inch rims, not 20 like we'll see on many other bikes like Super 73 or SONDORS Fold bikes. It's a 4-inch tire, so it's still a very fat tire, but it's not as big as the 4.9s that we see on the fat tire bikes that SONDORS normally produces. As a result, this wheel sits taller, the bike sits taller. So if we have a rider that's 6'2" or taller, they usually feel very cramped on a smaller scrambler styles. This one has a lot more room, and I'm 5'8". I have a 30-inch inseam. I can comfortably pedal this bike, whereas somebody who has a 34-inch inseam, it may not feel as comfortable, but it will be a lot more comfortable sitting on it. The seat height from top of the seat to the ground is 33 inches. So keep that in mind. If you have a shorter inseam, for how when you come to a stop, you may have to get off the seat, or you may have to lean the bike to one side. But that 33 inches seat height also accommodate a taller rider, and it's more comfortable. One of the great features is this handlebar. The style of this handlebar, it creates a very upright seating position. It's a very comfortable seating position. Now, the other two models that SONDORS have released or announced, which we should be receiving in our homes soon, the Retro or the Cafe Racer, have different handlebars. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the Scrambler style. I think it's very comfortable. Some people had noticed that initially when this bike was announced, the pictures showed a thicker seat. However, in production, they went to a thinner seat, which makes the distance to the ground shorter. I think this change was made primarily to accommodate the height from the top of the seat to the ground. If this was the thicker seat that they had showed, that distance would have been at least 34, maybe 35 inches. That probably would have been too tall for many riders. This seat, it's comfortable. It's not a couch, it's not a sofa. It is nicely padded, but it's firm. If you're used to riding on motorcycles or bicycles with a firmer seat, you'll like it. But if you're looking for something like a Cloud9, the big fat seats that I call them a sofa, this seat is not for you. So you may want to think about that a little bit. The other things that I see on this bike that I like, it's the same type of tires that we've seen. Now they're using Kenda tires, which I think is an upgrade to what they've used in the back. The cranks are the same cranks we have seen. The pedal assist sensor is a 12 magnet disc, very similar to what we've seen on their other bikes, but now these are 12 magnets. That's pretty good. Velgo pedals, same pedals we've seen on the fat tire bikes and MXS. Great pedals, they work very well for what this thing was meant to. If you're looking at the display, by holding the I button, this thing has the same battery switch like we've seen on other SONDORS. If you hold the I button for 2 seconds, display comes in. I've already gone into settings on this, and I have changed it to 9 PAS level. The display shows obviously the speed, the amount of power the motor is producing, trip meter, the maximum, the odometer, and also it shows maximum speed. It shows average speed and the amount of time that you have been riding or since the last reset. If you hold the plus and minus buttons for 2 seconds, it goes into settings. The display settings doesn't require any codes. It's the same thing we've seen on the other bikes. If you go to advanced settings, it is same code 1515. When you go into this setting, once again, you can change the wheel size. They've made it 27-inch. Think of it this way, 24-inch for the wheel and 3-inch for the tires leads to a 27-inch wheel. And then we have a speed limit. Currently, this is set at 25. I suspect this bike uses the same controller and display that we have seen on the Fold XS, and on that bike the top speed is limited to 25 miles an hour. On MXS is 28. This bike's top speed is set as 25. The current limit is 25 amp. That's the 25 amp controller. That's how I know with a 48 volt battery, 25 amp controller, we're talking 1200 watts maximum. And if you notice that if you leave it inactive, you will be kicked out like I was just, and you have to start over again. Here we go. And then a speed sensor is 6. That has to do with the motor, the magnets in the motor. Assistant Noom, I really don't know what this is, so if you do know, please share it with me. 48 volt 1 for the voltage. Here's where you can change the number of PAS levels. You could go to, I like it in 9. And the nice thing is now you can see it programmed. Level 1 is only 7%, and you can easily change it. Level 2 is 14, then it goes to 19, and it goes all the way. Level 8 is 75% and 100% at level 9. This makes it easier for the battery, especially at lower speeds. If you're staying on 1 or 2, you could easily feel, it feels more like a bicycle. It has a smoother start. Its slowest start is set in the medium 2. You can change that to 1 or 3 depending on how you like it, and then of course you can reset to factory settings and get out. This is overall the display. The bike works very well. I like the fit and finish. I like the ergonomics that they've created for this. So now I want to bring Sam into the picture. Sam, love your helmet, buddy. So tell me about what your thoughts are on this bike. You were the first one that rode it after we received this.
My thoughts on it, honestly, the frame is my favorite part about this bike. It feels so solid. It feels, there is a lot of weight to it, but just like a Harley, once you're moving, it feels lightweight, super enjoyable to ride. Overall, I'm a shorter guy, so you know the seat is a little higher for me, but still, once you're on it, you feel super comfortable. The brakes work solid, it shifts good. I don't pedal this bike too much, honestly. When I'm riding it, I'm just throttling it around. So if you're looking for a bike similar to a Super 73 with a little bit more styling, something newer, something more futuristic, I would definitely recommend this bike.
Well, thank you, Sam. And by the way, folks, you should see what Sam rides. Maybe we feature his own bike one of these days. But he loves the urban mobility bicycles, the specialty bikes, and this is right up his alley. So let's take it for a ride and see what it feels like. So we brought a Super 73 RX with us today for comparison purposes. Sam and I are huge fans of Super 73 bikes. They're great quality. They are the ones that have started the whole Scrambler style craze a few years back. This is their RX. This is their top of the line bike. And we brought him in so we can show you in comparison size perspective. As you can see, the wheel size are quite different. 20-inch by 4.5 versus 24-inch by 4. The Madmod is a taller bike. It feels taller. It feels like a large bike. Believe it or not, there is less than half an inch difference between center line to center line, hub to hub, between the wheelbase of Super 73 and Madmod. They're very close to one another. However, the Madmod feels like a much bigger bike and it can accommodate taller riders because of it. The Super 73, just a quick comparison, it's a 750 watt motor, but they are rating saying that it can reach 2000 watts. In the case of SONDORS, it reaches 1200 watts. But the big story here, the batteries are very similar. SONDORS is a little bit bigger, 20 amp on 48 volt 20 amp on Super 73 versus 21 amp 48 volt. Here's the difference. The seat height for RX is 32 inches, for Madmod is 33 inches. But the big differentiator, the grip height to the ground on this fork is 43 inches versus 48 inches in the case of Madmods. This bike is 5 inches more upright when it comes to the brake and the handlebar. That makes a huge difference. Also, the seat is a little bit longer, and because it's a bigger bike overall, you can sit further back on this bike. For taller riders that have longer arms, I think the Madmod will accommodate them better than this bike. Now, the brakes, I think these are Tektro Dorados. They're better brakes than what I see on the Zoom. However, this bike is capable of reaching 32 miles an hour versus 25 miles an hour. I think the brakes are just fine. They are great. The motor, 1200 watts peak versus 2000 watts. I seriously doubt anyone really reaches 2000 watts on this bike, but you should get a sense of what it feels like. I like the light much better on the Madmod. This retro round with 3 LEDs versus 1 LED on the Super 73. Something to consider if you are shopping for Scrambler bikes. I know there are a lot of options out there. Ariel has bikes, Juice Bike has bike, and you can find a lot of other manufacturers on Amazon or eBay that are selling Madmods. But I feel these are the two that should be on everyone's short list as for better, higher quality bikes to consider. Madmod clearly can accommodate taller riders, and I think that's one of the biggest attractions for it. And it's an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful bike. So one of the things about the new Madmods, they come with 2 sets of keys. One set is the traditional key for the battery, which I will show in a different clip on how to remove it. It's very similar to what we've seen on Rockstar and LX, those kind of bikes. The other set of keys, which is the smaller, are designed for this storage box. This is a pretty nifty idea. First of all, this is a lot roomier than it feels. I mean, here I'm going to put my larger iPhone in there so you can get a sense of the size of this. If you are carrying a light jacket or if you're carrying gloves, easily you can store it in here. The only thing about it is I would recommend if not just put your keys on the plastic. You may want to have a jacket in here and use it to shelter the phone and the keys so you don't have rattling. This is a great feature that SONDORS introduced with this model, and this allows you to lock up your valuables. The keys for the battery is obviously not needed to operate the bike, just to remove the battery. And this key is to lock and unlock the storage box.